There's been a good amount of news talking about the extreme weather that has been happening all over the world. And if you're questioning why is it happening, you're not alone. Pat talked with a climatologist, Randy Cervina, about his new book, Judging Extreme Weather, and what he thinks about the extreme weather that has been happening. Take a look.
Okay, so what's going on? You may have asked when looking at the sky and the area around us, not just in Arizona, but in the middle of a California desert, all of a sudden a lake comes up. What are we going to have? Trout fishing in the Dead Sea? Oregano instead of salt in the Salt Lake? I'll tell you what we do when we want to find out. We ask Dr. Randy Cervina, the climatologist. You have so many titles, for crying out loud. Not only on the faculty at Arizona State, but the president's professor at ASU. It's enough to make a guy lose humility.
Oh, no. I'm very, very humble, Pat.
Well, your new book deals with things that cause us to have a pain in any of our predictions, humble though they may be, because it just seems like nobody has any idea what's going on tomorrow. The book, by the way, is entitled Judging Extreme Weather. Will it continue to be extreme, or will it get worse?
It will get worse. It will get worse. I mean, extreme by the very name says that it's the ultimate that we can see. Well, when I started this project for the World Meteorological Organization all the way back in 2007, I was thinking we might have a new record every couple years or so. I've got 3 ongoing evaluations going on right now for different kinds of extremes. So weather is changing. Weather is changing.
Well, this is the book we're talking about. And Randy, if you will briefly expound on the kind of extremes that you cover in the book.
Well, back all the way in 2005, I was watching Katrina, and it was a horrible, horrible hurricane that hit. But I heard a commentator say it was the worst hurricane of all time. And I said, no, I mean, Katrina was bad, but 2,000 people lost their lives. But the worst hurricane of all time hit Galveston back in 1900, and 7,000 people died. The worst tropical cyclone of all time hit Bangladesh, and 1/3 million people died. So it wasn't the worst. Katrina wasn't the worst. I said, I wonder if there's a group that would be able to evaluate that. And I found out there wasn't. So I created one.
Well, and you've been doing it and doing it right for a long time here in the Valley. You're from the Middle West, a Nebraska kid. I went to school in Iowa, and every summer, spring into summer, we waited for that pause that seemed as if it preceded a tunnel coming your way with Dorothy and the cabin. Are tornadoes going to get worse?
Well, tornadoes, severe storms in general, are something that hits, but we don't necessarily see any big changes in their frequency or in their intensity. But they're always going to be prevalent, and they're always going to hit, unfortunately, as more and more people are living out in the places like the Great Plains, they're going to hit more and more people.
Well, what people, what areas of the planet may be free of those kinds of concerns, and those that are concerned because it may get worse? Well,
interestingly, 80% of all tornadoes that occur in the world happen in the United States. I mean, we have all the right, it's not some kind of a secret weather weapon. It's that we just have all the right things to create tornadoes.
Well, what about the rest of the weather problems? Climatologically, when we're talking about the extraordinary levels of cold, snow, heat.
And as you mentioned, rain. Right now we have California getting slammed by what we call atmospheric rivers, these giant flows of moisture that come in from the tropics. We are finding that maybe those are becoming more frequent, so that more and more of these kind of big rain events like we're going to have this week can actually occur.
Sometimes the only Spanish that we ever hear on most local television stations, the words El Nino and La Nina. Is that still a consideration?
That is. Right now, we are in what is called El Nino. It's a warming of the Pacific Ocean. Now, do you think, well, the Pacific Ocean doesn't have any big control over us, but it does, because it controls the storm track. It determines where storms are going to come in.
Yeah, but how hot is it going to get in Arizona? I mean, we're talking about now a state that has real extremes just within the state. When you look at the forecasts on television and the difference in the temperatures north, central, and south. Well, what about central, where we are right now?
Unfortunately, hotter. The biggest thing is going to be in the morning temperatures. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy to hear this, but the biggest thing associated with climate change is the idea that our mornings are going to get hotter and hotter, that instead of having a low temperature down in the 80s, we are seeing more and more frequently low temperatures that are in the 90s.
And the high? How high can that get?
The high can get up to, we have hit once in the Valley of the Sun here, 122 degrees.
Yes, yes, and my wife played golf that day. Judging extreme weather, climate science in action. His name is Dr. Randy Cerveny, and I'm Pat McMahon.